Look at that.
Okay, welcome everybody. In preparation for this week's game against Texas Tech and out in Lubbock, Texas, you know, the first thing that comes to mind for me is when I obviously you know, think Texas Tech. I got a history with Texas Tech, as everybody knows, and have been out there a bunch. Everything kind of starts offensively when you think about Texas Tech and you think about Cliff and what he's already been able to accomplish there. You immediately think offensive football. You know, they're you know, based on what they did last year, they're a different team in general, but they're pretty much the same offensively. You know, things are going to start with their quarterback. Davis Webb is still the Davis Webb that he was last year when he came out here and beat us in the second half. Has got a couple of inexperienced guys at receiver that they're going to continue to be able to get on the same page. I would expect to see improvement with them each and every week moving forward. I do think they're doing a little bit better job of running the ball this year. You know, DeAndre Washington is a good back. He's as good a back as we'll see. Is quick, is shifty, has been productive. Would anticipate that they would continue to do things with him. They got two outstanding inside receivers, and Jakeem Grant and Marquez, Bradley Marquez. Those guys are good players. They've been around there for the last couple of years. They're extremely productive. That's his comfort zone at this point in time. Got big tackles, you know, an experienced offensive line that are used to pass blocking. They will continue to show improvements on offense, and already they're scoring a bunch of points, and they're moving the ball a ton. Defensively is where I see probably the biggest difference with them. You know, studied what they did prior to 2 weeks ago when they made the change at defensive coordinator, promoted Mike Smith. They've simplified. I see better effort. I see defense playing with more energy. have simplified what they're doing slightly, not doing as much as they were doing. So I think that's going to put them in position to be able to be, you know, better on defense. So what they're dealing with on defense is what we dealt with on offense last year. They got a lot of new faces. They were very senior-oriented last year. 9 of the guys that played against us last year are not there. Replaced them with some very talented true freshmen and a bunch of junior college guys that are starting to get their feet underneath them. Again, I would anticipate tremendous improvement from them week in and week out defensively. Special teams, they're great in the return game. It's problematic, you know, punt return and kick return. They got guys that can go. The Grant kid is really good. The Batson kid, number 13, is a true freshman guy, is extremely quick. They do a great job at the point of attack. You know, everybody says, well, you got to have a great returner in order to be good in the return game. If you don't block at the point of attack, you're going to have problems. That's one of the bigger problems I see with our punt return team right now, is we're not blocking at the point of attack. Last year we were not blocking on the front line on kickoff return. This year we're doing a much better job of that, and you can see the improvement has been there. So got to stop the return stuff, which is a great week for us to be able to challenge our punt team and our kickoff team to get better and be more consistent and get down the field and make plays and do it at a consistent level regardless of what the score is and regardless of who's in the game. So looking forward to seeing improvements at that. So overall, looking forward to the challenge of going to Lubbock, going to play a Big 12 road football game. We're expecting a rowdy environment. Obviously, I've been there a bunch and know what to expect. It's going to be loud. It's going to be full. There'll be a bunch of people there with a bunch of energy, and we need to go in there and we need to handle it. With that, I'll take some questions.
Danny, you didn't handle it well 2 years ago. Your team didn't. What were the problems as you look back? Was it environment? What was it that caused the problems that year?
This is a totally different team than what we experienced 2 years ago. That's a different coaching staff. So I'm gonna comment on our current team, and I'm gonna comment on their current coaching staff. Road games are hard. So we're going to treat each and every road game the same. We've won some Big 12 road football games. We know how to travel. It's not going to be any different than some of the ones that we've won. We need to, we need to prepare, worry about ourselves getting better this week, travel the appropriate way, line up, go to the locker room, and put our jerseys on and go out there and play ball.
Two things. Number one, do you see any similarity between Cliff was quarterback and what Clint's doing now? And then two, how did your friendship with Cliff develop from the time you were an assistant at Tech and you were coaching the inside receiver, he was the quarterback, until the time you guys ended up living together in Houston?
Whether I have a soft spot for coaches' kids when it comes to quarterback. I've said that a bunch in here. Cliff was a coach's kid at quarterback, was a student of the game, was around it his whole life. His dad was a coach. Was very, would come in and want to watch a ton of film and knew how to be a leader in the locker room, knew how to be a leader in the huddle, was extremely competitive. I see all those qualities with Clint. The physical qualities are much different. Don't want to go into any of that, but being a coach's kid, understanding the game of football, it's important to him. Great leader in the locker room, great leader in the huddle, and being competitive out there. I see a lot of similarities in that. Just like I see similarities with Case Keenum and Graham Harrell. Other coaches' kids, they all possess that same quality. I always knew Cliff was going to be a great coach. I mean, just because of that, the same quality, just the same reason why Clint's going to be a great coach, because those qualities translate into a good coach. So Cliff could never let go of the game. When he went to the NFL, he bounced around 4 or 5 different places. Could never let it go because he's so competitive and he wanted to play. It started to fizzle out for him, and so. I was always in contact with them, so I said, go ahead and come on, move to Houston, keep training. If you get an opportunity, great. If you don't, then see if this coaching thing is worth seeing if it's worth your time. He worked out every day when he was at Houston and never got that opportunity to keep playing. So at some point, just said I'm done with it, and then went full throttle into coaching, and has obviously been successful ever since.
Yesterday you talked a little bit about how the run game opens things up for your passing. Can you talk the flip side of that with what you guys are doing on the outside and how that's opened things up for the run game?
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game. If you're able to do both, then it becomes, getting a beat on what their plan is. And their plan could change from series to series. It could change within the course of the series. It could change from set to set. Our job is to figure out what their plan is, and it's all about, dropping in coverage and giving you a weak box or coming towards the line of scrimmage and giving you a heavy box. I mean, and then you got to be able to figure out how you attack it. If they're going to give us a weak box, we're going to run it a bunch. If they're going to give us a heavy box, we're still going to try to run the ball a little bit. We're just not expecting, 10 yards a pop. So we just try to figure out what their plan is going to be, and then you got to have experienced guys like Clint, which is one reason why we're having success, and not to the point to where we're truly dominating people. We haven't done that yet, but we're having success because we identify what they're doing and we're able to execute it based on calling the appropriate plays.
And would you explain the way your offense evolved from the protege of Mike Leach and with someone, and then has grown, people say you've gone off in a little bit different direction than possibly what they do. Can you explain a little bit of that?
It's how much time you got?
Yeah, I know.
We're going to wrap this thing up here in a few minutes, but to make a long story short, my background, Mike Leach, throw the ball everywhere. Him throwing it 70 times and having 800,000 yards passing is no surprise to me. When I went to Houston, me and someone got together and wanted to run the ball more with more up tempo. Keep in mind, Kevin was at Oklahoma and just got throttled by West Virginia. So that was a lot of up-tempo run game, which is what Rich did, up-tempo run game with some movement. So we incorporated some of that. Went to Oklahoma State, and it was with Wickline, was a little bit more of a, you know, dig your hands in the dirt and come off the ball and strike you. And the more I did that, the more I realized it makes throwing the ball a little easier when you got more people up in the box. So we kept our core principles in the pass game with our progressions and the routes that we run. We just added to it with being able to, you know, come off the ball and smack you, or create some movement and tempo to be able to run the ball a little bit as well. Enter Ron Crook, who has a little bit more of a, you know, kind of a heavier set, not talking about his weight, heavier set offensive game plans with tight ends, that Stanford, inside zone power, that sort of thing. Yet he was really good at that stuff, and so that's why I was very interested in bringing him on board. So we've evolved a little bit into that as well. So I'd like to think we can do any of what I just said. We could spread it out and throw it. We could go fast and run it, go fast and throw it, use movement and run it, use movement and throw it, and then dig our knuckles in the ground and come off the ball and whack you if we need to do that as well. Takes a while to get there, but I think we got to.
Was it hard? I mean, when I say hard, was it hard on you personally to change beliefs?
It wasn't like I went from one extreme to the other. There is 7 years in between there that was an evolution based on the people around me, based on personnel, based on just kind of changing with the times, I guess.
What you did with Golson and Riddick and Mulder Saturday, after evaluating, did you like the way that worked? Did you anticipate more of that?
Yeah, we were happy with it because it got more speed on the field. Which, when you're playing spread offenses, you got to cover more ground. The more speed you have out there, the better it's going to be. Shaq needs more reps, so he's going to continue to get more reps. Ed Muldrow needs more reps, so he's going to continue to get more reps. Golston, you got to play to his advantage, was being able to come off the edge and get to the quarterback. Never got there, but affected the play a couple of times. Shaq Petaway, same thing. You know, allows his athleticism to be able to get out there to move around and affect the play, not only when you're rushing, but being able to cover in space as well. Kansas was a spread team that ran it, yeah, and Tech is a spread team that's gonna throw it more. But you want that kind of personnel on the field when you play those types of teams.
I guess it starts when you're recruiting these guys. You always think in the back of your mind, hey, what could this guy play this position or different? Where could we use him in our scheme?
Well, recruiting, that's a different deal because you never know how guys are going to progress. You never know how guys are going to develop. You know, when you're recruiting junior college guys and transfers like Riddick, Golston, Muldrow, you know, those guys, you know, we recruited those type guys because of their twitch, because of the passing game, so to speak.
Mentioned Kansas is a spread team that ran it, Tech is a spread team that's going to throw it. Does it change the way you call things when you're going up against a different style like that?
Yeah, it does. It does. We'll do some different things. You know, Tech's still going to run the ball. I mean, Cliff's running it more than he ever has. I mean, he's up to about 33%, so he's running it more. They got a quality back in Washington. They got 2 more guys that they can put in there that can run the ball. So, you know, I don't know if it's because of what they're facing, what the defenses are doing to them, or health of the quarterback. You know, I don't know why, but they're running it more. So, you know, we got to be able to stop, you know, the run with the appropriate number of people that we put in the box, and we still got to be able to cover as well. So, you know, the same thing that we were talking about what we try to do to defenses, guess what? He's going to try to do to us as well, maybe with different sets.
You said after the game you were mostly happy with the play of the special teams, except for a couple of big plays. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, you know, we're going to challenge our punt team. We've given up 2 punts, which we're not happy with. We're not incredibly pleased with the punter at this point either. Which again, it's not just you can't pinpoint any of the problems that have existed. I guess you can't. The 5 special teams blunders that have happened, you can't pinpoint one person. If somebody pinpoints one person, they have no idea what they're talking about. So we have identified as a whole what needs to change, and we've challenged our entire punt team. It's the same punter, same snapper, same personnel, same coach, same practice schedule, same practice time that led the Big 12 last year. Same people, same everything. So what do? You challenge them to get better, and we need Nick to get better, and we need to be able to cover more consistently.
And it seems that for going back to the beginning of your guys entering the Big 12, when you talked about different venues to enter, the wind at Texas Tech was one of the first things people talked about. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a bit of an issue the first time there. Is that unique there? Or, I mean, is that a thing there that you have to go in at least wary of, and if it's bad, then you gotta
deal with it.
Yeah.
you got to deal with it. I was talking with Tony about this earlier. There's only been a couple of situations in my 20 years where wind affected a game.
Mm-hmm.
The wind in that stadium that day did not affect the game. It did not affect the game. Did it get in Gino's head a little bit? Probably a little bit. Probably a little bit more once he looked out there and he didn't have Stedman Bailey because he went out in the first quarter. And he looked over here to JD, and they were bracketing JD because he was our only threat that we had. So there's some other variables. There's only been a couple of games throughout the course of my career where you had to kind of be careful about what you called based on wind. That wasn't one of them. There was a lot of other issues going on in that game other than that. It dang sure didn't affect them because they threw for about 500 yards and had 49 points. Last year at Kansas, that wind affected how you called it. 2 years ago at Texas Tech, it did not. So, Clint's a fifth-year guy. If it's gusty, it was gusty out here Saturday night.
Sure.
Clint's a fifth-year guy that's played in it before. He's made trips to TCU and Baylor and Kansas and Iowa State and stuff like that, to where he's experienced it, which does a lot of good. As far as what we do, been very rare. It's been very rare.
When it does happen, though, I mean, even if it's just if someone looks at the flags and it's stiff, and you're saying it's not a big deal, Clint anybody may believe something different too. But is it just simply talking them off the ledge a little bit? And just...
No, I don't think you can talk about it. I think you got to experience it, and I think Clint's at the point now where he's experienced it. After that game, Gino was very, very comfortable at Oklahoma State with the same wind. He was very comfortable at Iowa State with the same wind. So he learned from it and became better, and I think Clint's at a point now where he's experienced it. Paul has experienced it. They were there. They've been there. They've done that. And I don't think it would affect us one bit. If it affects us and it changes what we call, it's going to affect them, and it's going to affect what they call. So that way you can look at it.
Danny, you mentioned yesterday that the defense really relates to Tony Gibson and the way he coaches. Is that a direct reason for why this defense is playing much better, or is it because of maturity and experience of the guys?
Yeah, he's doing a good job. One of the reasons why I hired him too is he took a 3 down front, he tweaked it a little bit into what we're currently seeing, which I thought was very, very positive. Our defensive personnel, you're looking at a lot of guys that have experience, that have been in these games, that are starting to play a lot better, like Kwiatkowski and Tonkery and KJ Dillon and Carl Joseph and Kyle Rose. The list goes on and on. And they respond to him. I knew that I could see that they responded to him like this a year ago, and this year he's confirmed that the guys respond to him and they play hard for him.
Any change with Worley's status?
No, he's been cleared to practice. That happened on Sunday, but as far as competition, that's still up in the air.
Been cleared to practice by whom?
By the university.
Is that also cleared to play in a game too after he's up to speed with you guys?
Yeah, he's been cleared to practice by the university. His legal situation is still up in the air, and that's all we're going to comment on at this point.
So it's still up to the university to decide his game eligibility?
It's still up to a lot of people. So at this point in time, he's in the building, he's practicing, and that's as far as it goes.
Is he practicing with your defense or with your scout team?
That's a good question.
Talk about penalties.
Oh.
Talk about penalties.
We'll make that decision here in the next few hours.
Okay.
What goes into it with you guys who are near the top of the conference and taking them, and Tech, who's obviously struggled these last few weeks with penalties? Is it just a mindset? Is it mentality, discipline?
You know, I've been very happy with our